Hey everyone. Okay, we're just getting started here, making sure that I can see everything. Hello, welcome. I'm Dorothy with Crazy for Crust. I'm just opening up this on here because I can't see comments from here. Hey everyone, I'm Dorothy with Crazy for Crust. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we are talking about how to freeze cookies. And I am just trying to see if I can open it on my phone. I don't think I can. Okay. So, all right. So today we're going to talk about how to freeze cookies. So I like to bake everything ahead. Hold on one second. Let's see. Okay. Oh, it's telling me I have connection issues, but anyway. Okay. So today we are going to talk all about how to freeze cookies. And I freeze pretty much all the desserts that you see that I make. I freeze them. And especially with cookies, I know this time of year it gets super busy. December is super busy for everyone. The holidays, Christmas comes and you're like frantic trying to get everything done. So my way of doing things is that I like to freeze all of my cookies before like right now. Like, so yesterday I baked a bunch of cookies and I'm going to freeze them for Christmas, and then I don't have to stress about it that week. I can just do what I have to do at the last minute. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. All right, so there's a few different types of cookies that you might want to freeze. So we're going to talk about a few different kinds of things. Um, Quart size Ziploc bags. You can use generic, whatever you want. I know they make freezer bags, but I just usually buy whatever's on sale or whatever they have at Costco. So sometimes it's a freezer bag, sometimes it's just a storage bag. It doesn't really matter. So I love using these because for me, freezer space in my house is at a premium. My freezers are full of like food, but also cookies and desserts. So the bags are easy because they stack really simply and don't take up a ton of room. But you can also use like these Rubbermaid containers or Tupperware or whatever that you have that you like to freeze things in. So you'll need some of those things for freezing. And then the other thing, my like secret tip, are paper towels. And so this works for 90% of cookies that you'll freeze, the paper towels. What I love about them is I'll layer cookies between layers of paper towel and before I freeze them. And then once they're frozen and when you bring them out to thaw, as they thaw, all that condensation, as they thaw out, the paper towel will absorb the water from the cookies. And so from that condensation, and your cookies won't get soggy. So that's why I love using the paper towels. The only time you won't use a paper towel is if you're using something sticky, if you're freezing something that's sticky, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's start talking about different kinds of cookies that you're going to want to freeze. First, let's just talk about the basic ones. These are chocolate chip cookies that I made yesterday. They're my daughter's favorite. These I put some Christmas M&Ms in because it's for Christmas. I'm going to use these for Christmas. So I will link this recipe. Actually, if you're on Facebook right now, the recipe is linked, and I will add that on Instagram when we are done. So to freeze basic cookies, peanut butter, chocolate chip, anything that's just a basic cookie, nothing that's like really fragile, nothing that's sticky. All you have to do is use your bag or your container. And I'm gonna make a layer of cookies in the bag. Just place them in here. If you want, I'd love to know what your favorite kinds of cookies are. I'm always looking for new recipes to try, so let me know in the comments if you have a favorite cookie, and I will reply later if I have the recipe on my site if you're looking for any cookie recipes. Okay, so I've got like a layer of cookies in here. Now I'm just gonna take, this is what I love when it comes to the paper towels. I love the choose a size. Just in general life, waste less paper. But it's great for these because it kind of fits into the bag. So I'll just lay it here in the bag. Lay it as flat as you can, spread it out as much as you can, and then do another layer of cookies. This is a small batch of have those in here. Seal it up. Squeeze out all that air. And then the trick is you don't want to like go like this because then they'll fall. So you just want to keep it flat. And then I'm going to freeze it just like this. And if you have things like peanut butter cookies or oatmeal cookies or things that are more like sturdy like these, you can just stack these on top of each other. They're not going to hurt or crush each other. It's totally fine. Like I wouldn't put like a chicken on top, but you could put these on top of the frozen chicken in your freezer. So that's just the basic way of doing it. I also have some of these gingerbread cookie sticks, which I've linked, and I will link on Instagram later. These are, normally I would frost these. I would ice them with just kind of a powdered sugar icing, or you can use like white chocolate or something like that. These I'm going to do the same way with the paper towel, but I'm not going to frost them first because that powdered sugar icing usually doesn't like completely harden. It's not like royal icing. And so if I were you, I would just freeze them like this and then ice them after you thaw them. So like these I will freeze. I will pull them out of the freezer a couple days before Christmas. I'll ice them and then we'll enjoy them for a couple of days that way, or before you gift them, or however you want to do it. If you're using white chocolate on those or like drizzling chocolate, that's something that hardens, or using royal icing, that is fine to do ahead of time. But so anything that's not going to kind of harden, I wouldn't freeze. I would just frost them after. So those are like the basic kinds of cookies that are easy to freeze. Now there's other kinds of cookies that you would think about that you might not think you can freeze, but you can. So these are actually peanut butter chocolate thumbprints. This is actually from my book. This recipe. I made these because my husband loves peanut butter and chocolate, so I know that he will want these at Christmas. So I'm freezing these. So these, well, they have the ganache in the center. They're not sticky. So I can stack them like I would do the cookies. Those I'm going to do in this Tupperware with paper towel in between because they're little cookies. So I can get a whole bunch in this container. My book is available for pre-order now. If you are interested, it's a whole book about cookies. Actually, the entire book, almost every recipe in the book talks about freezing and how to freeze cookies and how to freeze the specific recipe. So I'm all about freezing, partly because I can't eat all of what I make. So I freeze it until I see somebody, or go to a party or something where I can take cookies with me. Okay, so I'm just going to layer these again. I'm layering between paper towels because I find that it's really helpful when you are defrosting them. One of the questions I got was, when you defrost cookies, like maybe like cranberry oatmeal, or the other one was like a ginger snap, do they stay chewy or do they get hard and soggy? They will stay chewy. Like for me, like especially like the chocolate chip, any of the cookies that I make, when you freeze them and then defrost them, to me, they taste exactly the same as if you had never frozen them. So they are perfectly fine to freeze. I do recommend using the paper towel so they don't get soggy. Otherwise, they'll stay. If they're supposed to be crunchy cookies, they're going to stay crunchy. If they're going to be and I do have an oatmeal raisin cookie. That was a question that was asked, and I will link that in the comments once I am done. Okay, and then I am going to put this lid on this one. I love these Rubbermaid containers. They are perfect, and because I love Tupperware. I mean, who doesn't? But these are great because they're cheap, and when they get destroyed or I take them to somebody's house and don't bring them home, it doesn't really matter. So these will go in the freezer for Christmas for my husband. All right, and then let's talk about sticky cookies, because sticky cookies are things like these are thumbprints that I added some salted caramel to. And I haven't posted this recipe, but I do have a jam thumbprint recipe, and I just use salted caramel in these. So these are super sticky, right? If I were to stack them with a paper towel, the paper towel is going to stick to that caramel, and it's going to and when I take them out of the oven, out of the freezer, and take off that paper towel, I'm going to have like little bits of paper towel stuck to the cookie, which is not what we want, right? That's not optimal. So 2 things to do when you are dealing with sticky cookies. 1, I place them on a cookie sheet like this with some wax or parchment paper. And I love using wax paper because it lays flat. I don't have to worry about it like rolling up on itself. And I just freeze them like this. You can cover it with plastic if you want, but if you're only, just don't forget about them. Pop them in the freezer for about an hour. They'll get frozen enough that that caramel is not going to be gooey anymore. And then you can stack them without having to worry about them sticking, any transfer of that caramel or whatever to whatever you're putting in between. Now you don't want to stack them, you don't want to stack these cookies on top, directly on top of each other, because again, as you're thawing, if you forget to separate them, they will stick together. So I'm going to use wax paper. So let's move this. Okay, so for this, I'm going to use a plastic bag. And again, I had these in the freezer for a while. They've actually been in the freezer for a while. So they're frozen. They're not going to stick to each other. So now I'm going to put them in a bag. I do this with fruit also. Like, you know, you buy fruit at the grocery store and you buy like way too much fruit. And then you're like, wow, I'm not going to eat all of this before it goes bad. I will like wash it and slice it and then freeze it on a cookie sheet with wax or parchment paper. Just pop it in the freezer for like an hour. Once it's frozen, then you can put it in Ziploc bags, and then like, and it's not one big chunk of fruit. Like then you can make smoothies with it or whatever without having to like chisel off a section of fruit. It makes it really easy. All right, let me see if there's any questions. Cookie dough in advance. Oh yes, Debbie. Making cookie dough in advance is fantastic. I don't usually freeze cookie dough just because I just am making the cookies usually because I'm working on the blog recipes. And so I need the cookies done and, you know, for photographs and stuff. But I do chocolate chip cookies are a great example. Scoop it onto, just like I'm doing here, scoop it onto a cookie sheet with wax or parchment paper, scoops of them, freeze. Once they're frozen, you put them into a bag. They won't stick together. And then you can just take out one or two at a time and bake them one or two at a time. And you have nice warm chocolate chip cookies anytime you want. It's perfect. Now there's not tons of these, so I'm not going to, I don't need the wax paper, but if I was going to make another layer of them, I would put wax paper and then keep layering them that way. And these you want to keep flat. Otherwise, you know, you don't want them to all crumple up like, because then they will, as they thaw, they will stick together. Also, if you have layers of sticky things, you want to make sure that you separate them before you thaw them. So once, say if I took these out on Christmas Eve, I would take off the layers before trying to let them thaw, and that way they won't stick together. So that's those. And then the last kind of cookie I want to talk about are sugar cookies, because we all love making sugar cookies at the holidays. We make them and we frost them every Christmas Eve. We started that tradition a really long time ago. And early on, I realized that my daughter really just wants to decorate the cookies and eat them. She doesn't actually want to like roll them out or help me cut them. And so I'm always the one stuck doing that on Christmas Eve or the day before that, like and getting breakfast ready and all those things. So I made these yesterday and I'm going to freeze them and then just pull them out on Christmas Eve and frost them. So yes, you can freeze sugar cookies. So I have my sugar cookies and I have the like ones. Like I made a bunch of different shapes. So I made gingerbread men. And I have all my gingerbread men, they're cooled, and then I stack all the gingerbread men together. I stack all the trees together, all the similar size shapes, I stack those. And I'm just putting them in one of these containers. This one, I'm not putting paper towels between. You could if you want to. These, I don't find having an issue with weeping or anything like that. And then I'm just gonna freeze these like this. Also, quick tip, not a cookie, but with sugar cookies comes sugar cookie frosting. And I don't know about you, but if there is a way to make frosting without getting powdered sugar all over the entire kitchen, I would love to hear it. I did it yesterday. I covered it with a towel, did everything. It was everywhere. Anyway, I freeze my frosting. So put it in a Tupperware like this or Rubbermaid container and then just freeze it. And then that way you can make it ahead. You can clean it all up and that way your kitchen's not going to be a mess on like the day before Christmas. and then just let it thaw in the refrigerator, and then take it out a few hours before, like you would soften butter. You want to let it come to room temperature so it's spreadable. The only thing is when you freeze and defrost frosting, it sometimes gets a little thicker. So you might need to add a little bit of cream or something just so that you can like thin it a little bit so you can spread it. You might just need to do that. But it's you don't have to worry about it. It's not a mess. When it comes to leftover sugar cookies, because I always make too many because I'm like, I love sugar cookies, but then we don't eat them all. And if you don't want to have them staring you in the face for days after any holiday, you can freeze frosted cookies the same way you would freeze anything sticky. So I would put them on a cookie sheet with wax or parchment paper, freeze them flat, and then you can stack them once they're frozen. There won't be any transfer of that frosting because they're frozen. You don't have to worry about it. And you can just pull out one or two at a time. Or if you take them all out because you're gonna like have another party or something, then I would separate them to let them thaw. Now, some questions: with no paper towel, do they get soggy? Not all cookies get soggy when they're defrosted. I just like using the paper towel just in case. I don't want to take that chance because who wants soggy cookies, right? So I always like to put the layer in between just in case. Some cookies are going to do it more than others. But just in case, I like to use the paper towel. Another thing is like Snowball Cookies. You can freeze those. The only thing, anything that's like rolled in powdered sugar, like crinkle cookies or snowballs or anything like that, you may just need to re-roll them in powdered sugar because some of that powdered sugar might dissolve a little bit with the condensation of being frozen. And so you might just need to re-roll them. But otherwise, they're all done. The cookies are done. You just have to like make them look a little prettier. I freeze fudge, I freeze candy, so you can freeze almost everything. Let's see. Oh my gosh, yes, when you use icing sugar, it looks like a bomb went off at a cocaine factory. Yes, totally. It's everywhere. I don't know how to do it, like not getting it everywhere. I measure it, I like try to be careful. Nope. Okay, let's see. Yes. Okay. So chocolate covered cookies or bars. I do freeze those. Just know the one thing, I mean, you can freeze them and I do. They might bloom a little bit when they're defrosting. So there are some times, and I feel like it's not all recipes, but occasionally when you thaw them, the chocolate might just be a little bit cloudy on the top. So if you're gifting them and you want them to look perfect, maybe don't freeze them. But if you are just putting them out on a cookie platter, with your family, I mean, and no one really cares if they're a little bit cloudy or not shiny, then, go ahead and freeze them. Another thing, if you wanted to freeze them, you can just decorate them with a little bit of extra melted chocolate when you're putting them out, and then no one will notice the cloudiness underneath. And one tip about like fudge, candy, chocolate coated things, those last longer if you put them in the refrigerator. So like a lot of times with fudge, if I make it a week or two in advance, I'll just keep it in the refrigerator in like an airtight container. It'll last just fine. Okay, let's see. Peanut brittle. I've never frozen toffee, but that peanut brittle is like toffee, I think, right? I've never actually made peanut brittle, not since I was a kid. It's on my list. But toffee, I keep in the refrigerator for a few weeks. That is something that will last as long as it's in an airtight container. I wouldn't use a Ziploc bag. I would use an airtight container and make sure it's like sealed and you like push out that air. It'll last at least 2 weeks in the refrigerator. So if you can still make it a week ahead and just pop it in the fridge. This isn't Tupperware. This is like Rubbermaid containers because Tupperware, I'm too cheap to buy Tupperware. I love Tupperware, but it's expensive and I tend to accidentally throw things away or break it or forget it at people's houses. So I love these like disposable containers and I just use them until they fall apart. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. I don't think there's anything else. Any other questions about freezing all of your cookies? Super easy, you guys. I think it's really, really simple to do and like just get all your baking done this weekend and then enjoy your holiday. Like sit down with your family and like watch a Christmas movie. Don't listen to them do it in the other room being like, oh, cookies, all these cookies. Like that's me on a normal day. My book is available for pre-order. Today, actually, if you pre-order it, today is the last day to sign up for my live Zoom. On Thursday, we will be making these. This is a recipe. This is a cinnamon pecan cookie. And Snickerdoodle hot chocolate, we'll be making that. It's a never before published recipe. You get that one for free. And you can bake with me on Zoom if you want to. That's on Thursday. And then I'm also announcing a way to gift the book without it actually being in your hands, because it comes out in February. So go ahead and get those pre-orders in. It was a couple dollars off on Amazon last time I saw. Thanks for following along. This was great. And if you have any other questions, just go ahead. You can leave me a comment or DM me if you have any questions. I love answering all your questions because that's my job. Anyway, have a great day and thanks for watching, you guys. Bye.